Hello, everybody. Hello. How are you guys all doing? Um, so today I will just be talking about my hair. It's just no, I'm not talking about my hair, but today I want to share a story. Um, since we are still in September, and September is about, it's a suicidal awareness month, and I just feel like I want to tell and share the world my story. um, it's really hard for me to explain and to tell, but I will share through. Before before I continue further, I do apologize. Um, some of these will be really personal, and I just want to share them, but I'm not going to share everything to you guys. So, and I do apologize to my friends and families who sees this video and they hear about it. I'm not spilling your beans or spilling eggs to the world, but I'm just sharing my experience. And so I think I was about 9, and after my parents' divorce, everything took a turn. Everything just my parents, they were trying to settle their case, and I'm the oldest of 6 kids during that time. So with me being the oldest daughter, the oldest child, I had to take on a role where I had to start taking responsibility. Even though I didn't know exactly what was going on and what my parents were doing, but I just kind of have an idea already that my parents, they were going through something, they're going through a hard time. Of course, I didn't know what divorce means. So anyways, through the whole process, they work things out, and next thing I know, me and my baby sister and baby brother, 3 of us, we were living with my mom, and my dad took the 3 middle kids with him. And then about a year later, we moved to Georgia. About a year after their divorce, or 2, I don't remember. We moved to Georgia, lived with my stepdad, and everything just started to fall apart for me as a kid. And moving to a different state, having to know people, having to know a whole new family, that was really hard. It was really hard, and I know how that feels, and I know exactly how my daughter's feeling now. We had to move. My daughter and I, we moved from Wisconsin to Georgia, and she's 10. She's 10, and she's in 5th grade, and she's going through a whole new transition that I had to go through when I was her age. And with my mom, she was trying to make it out there too. She was trying to get to know the world, try to know people, try to know where stores are, where does the relative lives, So my mom, she was having a hard time. And not just that, but like with the 2 younger ones, they were still little. So my mom was frustrated. My stepdad, he worked, and I was the only one going to school. So, when I started school in 4th grade, I was about 10 years of age. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. I did have troubles in school. I became the bully. Okay, I became the bully in 4th grade, and then in 5th grade. Because I don't know why. I don't know why I decided that I'm going to become the bully and bully people. Though I was the only Asian in my class. I was the only Asian. And but it started when I hit middle school. You know, when you hit middle school, you start liking boys, not guys. You know, you start liking boys, and you have crush, and you know, that's when you start to hit puberty. And my face was like acne. Like, I had so much acne all over my entire face. Like, you can't even recognize that who I am. You know, I have it on my forehead, my cheeks, my chin. Like, I mean, I still have it. I still have acne here and there, but they're just, you know, not as much and huge like when I was in my teens. You know, in middle school, yeah, you just start liking boys, but I was never attractive. I had so much acne around my face. I didn't know how to dress. What is it? I didn't know how to really dress myself to where I stand out. You know, I dress more like a boy. Because when I growing up, my grandma bought me boy clothes. Because I had two brothers that my grandma loves buying them boy clothes. You know, buying them clothes more than us girls. But the second brother, he was still so young that it didn't fit on him. So my grandma had to end up giving me those boy clothes so that I can, in a way, match up with my brother, you know. So I pretty much kind of grew up wearing boy clothes my whole life. And then when I was in, you know, hitting my teens, I just kind of got used to just dressing more like a boy. You know, I always had my hair up in ponytails, like how I have right now, and I just felt comfortable dressing like a boy. But you know, I'm a girl, so of course I will have the mindset of liking a boy, but like I said, you know, I just wasn't attractive. I just didn't know how to present myself to where, like, hey, I'm a girl too, you know. And I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends back then, they did thought that, are you a lesbian? And I'm like, what the hell is that? You know, like, I didn't even know what the heck like a lesbian was, because I never was exposed to those kind of categories. You know, I didn't know anything about like all those LBGT whatever stuff. So I never knew any of those stuff, and I had to so I just kind of like whatever. But yeah, you know, so I started talking to my mom about, you know, topics about being gay, about being lesbian, about being a bi. You know, like I started asking her those questions, and then she got really mad at me, and so she got really mad, and I was just really confused as into like why, you know. So of course, you know, she would like teach me from the Bible or through the Bible that it's not something God wants in your belief in Christianity or believe in God, and you shouldn't become that person or be that type of person. So I was just kind of like, okay, even though I was still confused as into like, why can't guy like another guy? Why can't a girl like another girl? Why does it have to be a boy and a girl together, right? So so being around my teens, when I was already about 12, 13 in middle school, I liked the guys. And, you know, not guys, I'm sorry, boys. Come on, Siwang. So, but they never liked me. And I never understood it. And I just felt like, am I not pretty enough? Is it because I am too short? You know, I've been 4'10" all my life. I stopped growing when I was 16. So I was a really shy person, and when I told my friend, like, I was always into football guys, because, you know, I see all these cheerleaders, and I'm like, I think I should be preppy like them too to get a boyfriend or something like that. I don't know, but you know, so I try to try out for cheerleader. And you know, all the girls there, they're just like, no, you can't be, because you're not fit for you're not fit to be a cheerleader. So, you know, I went from being a bully in 4th and 5th grade to becoming this innocent, quiet person in middle school, that I was just trying to figure out where I fit in groups at school. And I didn't have that many friends in school, in middle school. So I was trying to fit into groups that I don't belong, or that I'm being told that I don't fit to be in a certain group. So I didn't really understand. I was skinny. I thought to myself, like, I'm skinny. I'm not tall, but I think I'm good to be a cheerleader because I'm not pretty. I don't know how to dress myself. And I'm too short. So I started to hate myself. I started hating myself. I started to have lack of confidence. But I still didn't really think much, because the girls on those cheerleader teams, I hated them too. So I was like, yeah, it's fine that that you said that to me. But when it came to liking a boy, that's when everything took its turn. Because in my mind, I'm just thinking to myself, like, gosh, I want to be like her because she's a cheerleader, and I want to be a cheerleader, and maybe if I become a cheerleader, the guy that I have the boy that I have a crush on will like me too, So that was my mindset, and until I had a crush on this white boy. Okay, I was never really into Hmong guys or Hmong boys. I was into other Asian boys, but I was never really into, like, my own people. And this white boy, and he's a football captain, and he was really tall, he was really cute, and I just liked him because he was really cute, and he was tall, and he was a football captain or whatever, and I just thought to myself that, if I try out for a cheerleader, he might like me. But after hearing what those girls said to me, I felt really like I lack that self-confidence. And then when I told one of my friends that I liked this boy, and then she took me up to him and told him that I liked him and pointed me out, and the first thing he said to me was, "Ew, no, she's ugly." And when he said that, like, I just felt like my heart broke. I cried, and I just walked away. I didn't know what to say, and I just walked away, and I was crying. And then my friend, she came and she comforted me, and she was just like, you're not ugly. He's just being like that because he thinks that he's on the football team, he's the captain, whatever. He can say whatever he wants. And that, even till now that I'm 30 years old, I still think about it, and it's sad and funny at the same time. And to hear that, I started to hate myself. I started to I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to see him. I hated myself so much. And I look at myself in the mirror and I said, if only I was pretty. If only I can find ways to remove all this acne and become more of a girl and dress more like a girl, that he would like me. So I tried everything, every product. My mom even tried every single product she could find out there just to clear my acne. I went to doctors, and I used Proactive. I used all these products. Nothing helped. So when I was in middle school all the way to when I started high school, and in middle school, when I like a boy, I just stopped telling him that I like him, because of what one boy said to me, that I wasn't pretty enough or I was too ugly, and I was too short. Just because of one boy who said that to me ruined my self confidence, ruined. I just feel like my life was ruined. I just feel like I couldn't date. I won't be able to date. I just feel like I will never have anyone with me or by my side. And I started thinking about committing suicide. So I started try to commit suicide. The only thing I have imagined in my head was just hanging myself because I'm too ugly. I was starting to, slice my arm, and because the pain, it was just too painful, and I just want to, like, I literally did all those stuff. My mom knew about it. She found out about it, and of course she yelled at me, and she's like, Siwan, why are you so stupid? Just because one boy said he doesn't like you doesn't mean every single boy doesn't like you. There will be someone out there who will see through all that acne that you are pretty. And it doesn't matter about how you look. It's what inside you, your heart. It's your heart that will make you pretty on the outside. So, even though she said that to me, I was a teenager. I didn't know any better. I didn't understand what she means. Because all I see growing up was all these, my friends, they are pretty. They know how to present themselves. They know how to get boys. They know how to talk to boys. They know how to fix their hair, put on their makeup, and they know everything. They know how to make themselves look so beautiful. Like, I look at my friends and I'm like, gosh, I wish I was you. And they're just like, you're pretty. But I just said, no, I'm not. And just because of one boy that said to me that I was short, ugly, it just ruined me. And so in middle school, all I thought about in middle school was suicide. I tried killing myself. It's really hard to say because I never really told anybody about my life. So if I start crying, I'm really sorry because I never told this to anyone, and this is the first time I'm telling it to people, sharing. So just because of one boy said that to me in 6th grade, and I wanted to just kill myself because I was like, okay, I'm not pretty enough. I will never have a boyfriend, and all my friends are all dating except for me. Like, that was what I was thinking. So I would start acting out like I'm dead. When I'm in my room, I would act out like I'm dead. Like, I would literally choke myself, and I start hearing voices, and I would try to hurt myself in any way that I could. There was a year, it was during my high school year, I think my freshman year, and I was able to find a product that helped clean all my acne away, and I started to dress. High school year was when I changed myself, and even though I changed myself, I was still struggling. So high school year came along, and I learned to dress more girly, even though I dress in black all the time. But I didn't have that much friends still in high school because of the way I presented myself. People thought I was emo. People thought I was gothic. So I never really have friends much in high school. And then high school is when you started seeing more cute boys, right? You start seeing more cute boys, and I just started liking all these cute boys, and and I got the same response. I was rejected. I wasn't pretty enough. I was too short, and I was just sad. Like, I was just really sad, and then I was just like, I just feel like I just want to die, man. I just want to commit suicide. I don't want to live anymore. Like, I will never have a boyfriend. I don't know why at that time that was so important for me. That was so important for me. And only because all my friends has boyfriend, and I see and understand why now my daughter, she's always like, Mom, it's really important for me to have a dog because all my friends has dogs, and I'm the only one on earth that don't have a dog. And I'm like, girl, you're not the only girl on earth that do not have dogs. Auntie and uncle, they don't have dogs. Grandma, grandpa, they don't have dogs. But she's always like, my friends. So I understand my daughter why it's important for her to have something that her friends has so that she can fit in. And that is something that I had to teach my daughter, that you don't need to have what they have to fit in. And that was something that I was never taught, because I'm the type of person that I don't share my feelings to anybody, not even my mom. I don't share my feelings to anyone. So I would have a journal that I write all my feelings in. And so my mom never really knew how I felt. She never knew what was going on with me at school. She tried engaging in conversation with me, but I was just the type of person that I shut myself out from the world. And that is something that I need to work on. And I'm in my 30, like, I'm hitting 30, and I still shut myself out from the world. So I know a lot of people might think that, oh, Simon, you maybe have a mental issue. It's like, I don't know. I don't think I have any mental issue. It's just who I am. It's just who I am, and it's who I've always been. And when I was a kid, after my parents' divorce, I just shut myself out from the world. I just became really quiet. I don't talk to anybody. I hide all my feelings. I don't share my feelings to anyone. And then nobody ever bothered to ask me how am I doing and stuff too. So I just never really care. Yeah, but high school year, everything just went downhill. Everything I felt in my life just went down the drain. I started to see that I wasn't pretty enough. I started to see that I wasn't skinny enough. I started to see, like, I hated everything about me just because I wasn't getting a boyfriend during my teen years. I did end up dating a Hmong boy, but we only dated for like 2 days, and then we kind of went our separate ways. So I didn't even consider it as dating him. But no, I just tried harder to commit suicide during my high school year. I tried everything that I could. All I ever thought about was just killing myself, hang myself, or like, I would think of every single way just to kill myself, because I just felt like I wasn't good enough. And I just felt like I wasn't pretty enough or skinny enough, and my mom started having, the pastor come and pray for me more often, and they were saying that I was possessed, thinking about all these death, and I said, no, I'm not possessed. So, everything kind of went downhill, and I got really upset that my mom always has the pastor come and pray for me, because I just felt like it was useless. And I remember there was this night, I was already 18. Yeah, I was already 18, and I dropped out of school. I dropped out of my was it sophomore, wait, freshman, sophomore, junior. I dropped out of my junior year. I skipped school the last semester of my sophomore year because I was just going through so much, and I just wanted to end my life. I just feel like I was worthless. I just feel like I have no place on earth. I just feel like I have no place to be with people on earth because I just wasn't getting friends, or I don't know. And so I skipped out school for the half semester of my sophomore year, and then during my junior year I just didn't bother to go to school. I just dropped out. So yes, I am a high school dropout, and a lot of people don't know that I'm a high school dropout, and it's really embarrassed for me to come out and say that, because I see all my friends, they graduated. Either they graduate with honors or they graduate with whatever. And to see my sisters, my brothers, they all graduated, they get to walk. I'm like the black sheep of the family. I just dropped out. I went and got my GED, but it was a online school, and just to find out that GED, I cannot get into public college with it. I can only get to online colleges. So in another way, it's I can't get a scholarship for the GED that I have now. So during my high school year, all I thought about was dying, killing myself. I just didn't feel like I was worth it. I didn't feel like I lack a lot of self-confidence during my high school years. And then my mom and we started having problems because she's trying to get to the bottom of things with me, and I'm just over here arguing with her, feeling like she doesn't understand me. And the reason she never understood me was because I never finished my sentence. I just become frustrated about it. And I start to see that in my daughter as well. And I will always tell my daughter that, no, you need to finish your sentence. If you're going to tell me something, finish your sentence and don't get frustrated about it. And because I see that in myself. I see that. So my daughter is like, my daughter is like a replica of me. Like, literally. She's like a replica of me. And I fear for her life. Because when I turned 18, I left Georgia, and I went to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and I stayed with my aunt, my mom's sister. And staying with her, I was getting a lot of stress. I was feeling a lot of stress, and I've always wanted to talk to someone. And during that time, I felt like the closest person I can share my stuff to was my cousin. And she's a year older than me. So she was the only one I felt like I can actually share my thoughts, my feelings, my secrets. Because I just felt like during that time, like, she never judges me. She never judges me. She never really say anything bad to me, I guess you could say. So she was more like the encouraging type of person. She never really judged anybody by how they are. So I felt like she was someone that I can share my thoughts or share my feelings, my secrets to. And but during that time, she was working. She was like 19, so she was working, and so she worked, and it's hard to communicate with her because she's I think she worked, and she was going to school too. And yeah, so I never get to talk to her. Like only maybe once in a blue moon if she like on the weekends, on the weekends if I catch her, then I will talk to her. But if I don't, then it's either she's already up, getting ready to go to work, something like that. So yeah, and living in Eau Claire, that was when everything, I just felt like, okay, I don't live with my mom anymore, and um, I can do whatever I want. I'm 18. Nobody can't tell me no. That was my mind. That was my mindset. So I started. I went to school. I did went to school too, but I didn't get to finish. My mind, all I ever thought living in Eau Claire was to just kill myself too. Like all I thought about was just killing myself. I just feel like I was not worth it. I just feel like I wasn't pretty enough. All because of what that boy said in 6th grade. Just because of that, because it's your first crush, your first time liking a boy that you weren't expecting them to say that to you, and so when he said that, that stuck in my head for that long, and I just felt like I wasn't worth it. I just felt like I just didn't have confidence in myself. So what I do, I would walk to school. School's far too, so I would walk to school. It takes me about an hour and a half to get there on foot, since I didn't drive. Don't know how to drive. I had my permit, but I was really lazy to learn how to drive. So, I would purposely try to get run over. After school, when I come home, there's a river under a bridge, and I would just go sit there, and all I ever thought about myself is I'm gonna drown myself. So there was a time where I literally went into the water, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna drown myself. I'm gonna do it because I cannot swim. I cannot swim. Okay, I cannot swim. So I was like, I can't even swim. I can't even float. I always sink. So I can do this. I can do this. But the sucky thing was that I can hold my breath really long underwater. Even though I can't, like, I can swim. It's just that I panic if my feet don't touch the bottom of the floor. It's because I'm only 4'10", so I can only swim, swim at the 4 feet. If I get to 5 feet, I panic. Okay, so, so I was like, yeah, I can't swim when my feet's not touching. So I guess I can drown myself. So I tried drowning myself. That didn't work. Summer. It was on July 30th, 2010. I was in the car with my cousins and my aunt. We were visiting family members in St. Paul. And then there was another family that lived in Tracy, Minnesota. It's a 4-hour drive from the cities. It's more in the countryside. So, not a lot of people knew that I was in a car accident. That just changed my life from thinking about committing suicide. Because my whole entire life, I tried every single way to commit suicide, just to kill myself. And, on July 30th of 2010, my cousins and I and my aunt, we got into a car accident in Minnesota, Fairfax, Minnesota. The only thing that I could remember was I shouted my cousin's name. I pointed to the semi truck, and everything went dark. Um, I remember I was helping her with a direction to go visit families in Tracy, and um, at that time we didn't have like iPhones or Samsung phone and all those stuff. We used to have those little cheap flip phones, so but technology was getting there. We were still able to get like go through maps on like like datas and stuff, but they just technology at that time just wasn't to the point where they had the app map and you could just Google map everything. But so I remember handing her her phone, and she was the driver, so her mom was the passenger. Okay, sorry about that. It's a bit emotional talking about it. That's why I don't talk to people about my accident. So yeah, I mean, I was sitting right behind my cousin, and I was sitting right behind her, so I was handing her phone back, and then when I was handing it to her, I was handing it like this, like this way, and then I looked, and I just said her name. I just shouted her name. I pointed to the truck, to the semi truck. It's a Walmart semi truck too. I shouted her name, pointed to the semi truck, and then everything just went black. Everything just went dark, and I start to feel my breath fading away, and I remember telling myself, like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to kill myself, I've been trying to commit suicide, and this is it. This is it. I'm dying. I'm gonna die. And my breath was just like fading. It was just going away, and I knew it, that I was going to die. 'Cause that was like a main goal that I was trying to get to, and now I'm literally gonna die. And so, I saw this shiny light coming towards me, and I saw it coming towards me, and I knew that it was God. And I said to God, and I said, God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, I want to be in heaven with you so bad, but so many things in my life, and I won't get to be with you. And I'm dying. And I just start thinking about my family. I start thinking about my friends. I start thinking about my siblings, and everything was just like a flash. And I'm sorry. This is why I don't tell my story, because it's really sad. Because when you are alive, you just feel like you're worthless. You just feel like nobody cares about you. You just feel like nobody understands you, So the only thing that comes to your mind is, I just want to die, because of what one boy said to me in middle school, and that just ruined my whole entire life. And so that was my main goal, was just to die. But in the flash of when everything just went dark, and I started thinking about my families, my siblings, my friends. I started thinking about a lot of stuff, and I just like, this is it. I'm done. Oh, I just, that's just how I felt. And, God was telling, and then God said to me that, my child, I have already forgiven you. You will be with me in heaven one day. And then when he said that, he faded away. It sounds like I'm making up stories, but I'm not. I have seen God, and so after he faded away, I just felt I just felt like I couldn't breathe, and I started hearing people like calling outside, saying like, "Is everybody okay? Like, how's everybody? Like, speak to us. Like, if you guys are fine, say something." And I heard someone say, and I opened my eyes and I looked up, and all I saw was the car was in the ditch. People were flashing lights left and right. People were calling, and then I looked up to the back, and that's when I realized that, the head of the car went down into the ditch, and all the windows in the back broke and shattered, and it was all over my body. And the little kids, my little cousins, they were like all just on top of me, and so I told them, I said, for them to get out from the back door or the back window, because it's all shattered. So I told them to reach out and get out. So my cousin, my aunt, my other cousin, my guy cousin, and I, we were the only four that were stuck in the car, because when the car found the ditch, everybody fell on top of us. And my cousin, he was sitting next to me, and his foot got jammed, and he broke his leg, and then my right foot got jammed under the seat. So my leg was stuck, and then I couldn't, and then I just heard a guy saying, "Is everybody okay?" And I said, "I can't breathe." And I just said, "I can't breathe." And then and he was just like, "You'll be fine." And I said, "No." And I just said, "I can't breathe. I'm dying." And I said, my voice, I was like, my breath is fading away. So all I said was, "I'm dying. I can't breathe." And then they were able to get my cousin out. So they had to drill the slide door, the door out. And when they popped the door, they noticed that my foot was jammed under the seat. So they had to be careful taking the door out. So after they took the side door out, and they got me out, and I was just laying there, and I started seeing people, but I didn't know what was going on. And I was the first person to be transferred to the hospital, because I have glasses all over me from head to toe, and I was just like bleeding everywhere, and blood was everywhere, and they didn't know if I was alive or not. So I was the first person to be transferred to the hospital, and through the plane and on the helicopter. And when I got there, well, when I was on the helicopter, they were talking to me. I could hear them, but I just couldn't talk. Everything was just flashing to me. Like, the only thing I could think about was my family. All I thought about was my family. And so the only person I could think about was my mom. And so the only person I could think about was my mom. And then when I got to the hospital, I was hearing all these people like, "What happened? What happened to her? She's so young. What happened? And why is she, why is there glasses all over her? Like, what's going on?" And so I could hear people talking, but I couldn't talk. And then I remember laying there, and a nurse, I was able to finally gain conscience, and a nurse was just asking me questions to keep me up,
And they were asking about my mom. And I gave them my address in Georgia here, and I gave my mom's number and the whole phone. And they were like, "Your mom is on her way," and I said, "She can't. She's in Georgia. I'm in Wisconsin. She can't be on her way." And they, they know, but they were just comforting me. And they had me call my mom, and it was, I think, like 1 or 2 in the morning in Georgia, and I left a voice message for my mom twice. And I told my mom, and I'm like, "Mommy, I'm really sorry. Um, I'm really sorry." That's all I could say to her was, "I'm really sorry that I couldn't be the perfect daughter for you. I'm really sorry that I couldn't be the kind of daughter you want me to be. And this is my last call for you. From today on," I'm sorry, I'm trying not to cry. "From today on, you'll never get to hear me anymore, You'll never get to hear my voice." And so I left 2 messages for her saying that, that I'm really sorry. That this is the last time you ever hear my voice. And that we were in a car accident, and I'm not going to make it tonight. I'm not going to make it past tonight. So I started thinking, I was just laying there, and I started thinking about my mom, my dad, my siblings. I was thinking about all the fun times that I had with my friends. And I was just like, really? Like, I've been trying to commit suicide all my life. And now that I'm laying on my deathbed, it's scary. It's scary. So to a lot of teens out there, you think that it's fine to just end your life. Think again. Think again, because life is tough. Life is tough, but if you push through it, you'll make it. And killing yourself is not going to solve anything. Killing yourself is not going to take you to a place where you feel like you can fix everything again, And when I woke up, I was just happy that I was still alive. I was happy that I was still alive. And I was happy to be alive. That I woke up and I saw my mom. I woke up and I saw a lot of people around me, And when I saw my mom, I cried, and I just told her, like, I want to go home. I just told her that I want to go home, and I'm sorry. I don't want to stay here anymore. But with my condition, I was not able to go home, so I had to stay with family members in Minnesota for a while. But ever after that accident, I have a fracture pelvic. I was lucky that it didn't broke. If the bone was to break, then I would have lost my leg. There was no way of fixing my leg if my pelvic was broken. So the doctor said it was a good thing that it was just a fracture. It's only like about 3 inches away that I would have lost my leg. The fracture was really huge. It was really big. So the doctor did say that I was really lucky, so close to losing my leg. they would have had to amputate it because they won't be able to fix it. So I have a fractured pelvic. I broke my chin. So my chin here, I don't know if you guys can see, there's scars, and so I broke my chin, and I broke my teeth. So they had to brace up my teeth. You know, my teeth was pushed back in, so they had to push my teeth back out and brace everything. So now my teeth up right here, they're really sensitive to eating and drinking. And but after my accident, and after they took out the stitch, my scar was huge, and I just hated myself even more. I hated myself even more. I didn't have that confidence again. And so, again, the second time I tried to commit suicide, I should learn from my first time, but I was married, and when I got married, things took its turn again, and things didn't go how I thought a marriage would be like. You know, because I thought marriage was all lovey-dovey and I love you, you love me, we're a happy family, right? Oh my gosh, I sound so ugly right now. I can't even sing. You know, that's what I thought family was, but it wasn't like that. I didn't thought that was how marriage worked. You know, that there was gonna be ups and downs, and I was only 18. You know, when I got married, and it was right after my accident too. So I didn't know that there's gonna be ups and downs in a marriage. I didn't know anything, and I just thought that you get married and then you get pregnant. That's what I thought. You married today and you have a kid tomorrow. That was literally how I thought marriage worked. So, that's what happened when you drop out of high school, kids. Don't drop out of high school, okay? You lack knowledge. You lack the education that you need. That's why they have health programs or people who come and teach you about those stuff. So, to all you teens out there, don't think about dropping out of high school, okay? Because if you screwed up, your life is screwed. That's all I can say. But, yeah, so everything kind of went downhill with my marriage, and I tried to commit suicide again. I just felt like I was worth it. I was worthless. You know, my ex-husband at that time, he didn't love me. He didn't care for me. He was cheating on me with his ex-girlfriend, and I'm not gonna keep going about my marriage there. I'm just gonna end it there. So I just felt like I wasn't worth living again. So I tried to commit suicide the second time, and because I was on medication, I tried to overdose myself. I tried overdosing myself, and it didn't work. It still didn't work. And then about a month later, I found out I was pregnant. As a disabled person, helpless, lay there, things happen. So a month later, I found out I was pregnant. My life changed again. And even till now, you know, I took care of my daughter the day I had her till now. So my daughter, she's always been with me, always around me for 10 years. And from time to time, I still do think about committing suicide. But when I think about my daughter, she's like my miracle child. she's there for me. She's there to lighten up my world. And when I think about it, that of that day, that night, if I died, she wouldn't be here. She wouldn't be in my life. I wouldn't exist. She wouldn't exist. So, life is tough. Life is tough, but you just have to push through it. Yeah, there will be days that I fail at being a single mother. There will be days I failed my child, but I tried. I would think about it, I would think about the times, and that, time is precious. Spend your days, spend your time with your loved one as much as you can. Because you never know what's going to happen in a blink of an eye. And just to see my life flashing on that day, I just felt like, wow, if I was to die on that night, if I didn't make it out alive, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't have my daughter here. So having my daughter in my life now, like, completely changed me. And I just felt like, you're my purpose to stay alive. You're my purpose to keep going. You're my purpose to have a better life, not just for myself now, but for us. You are, like, I always tell her, like, you're my miracle child. And she's like, what the heck is a miracle child, Mom? Like, and I said, if I didn't have you at such a young age, I had her when I was 19. So I was pregnant when I was 18. So I always tell her, like, if I didn't have you in my life, then I wouldn't be where I'm at today. I wouldn't make it this far in life. Maybe I would have killed myself, literally, again, and end it all. But because of you, my life changed. And though her dad didn't love me and want me, I know my daughter needs me. And though my second ex-husband did not want me, he did not care for me, I know my daughter needs me. Today I know that even though you don't need me, my daughter needs me. You don't want me, my daughter wants me. And having my daughter in my life changed everything. Though I do get frustrated with her, because like I said, she's like a mini me. She's like a mini version of me, where I can argue with her like almost every day, and then I get fun annoying her, and then later she has fun annoying me, and so we just have like a weird mother-daughter relationship, a really weird mother-daughter bond, and that is something that nobody understands. And every mom, they have a weird bond with their kids, and that is just who they are. That is just a part of them. That's how they build that relationship with their kids, and that's what your kids is going to remember you the most is, oh, I remember this one time my mom, blah 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 blah, we did this, we did that, or whatever, and that's something that not a lot of people understand, is that my daughter and I, she's been with me for 10 years, and we just have this really weird bond, weird mother-daughter bonding that people out there just thinks that I'm hurting my daughter, or that I don't care about my daughter, or that I lack being a mother. But it's just something that me and her, we have together ever since the day she was born. The day she was born. And now that she's getting older, she's getting bigger, she roasts me a lot. And I'm just like, what are you doing? I'm the one, I'm the one that's supposed to be roasting you. You're not supposed to roast me, so. So now, and I always tell her and remind her, that time is precious. And I always, I do tell her my stories. And sometimes she is getting to that point, to that age, where she's like, Mom, I just want to kill myself. And I'm like, why did you say that? Don't ever say that. Like, what's going on? So she will get frustrated, but I let her have her space. I'll let her have her space, and then I would just come and I'll just sit down with her, and I said, hey, so why would you say that you want to kill yourself? And things that she says to me is a lot of things that I have said when I was around her age, and a lot of things that she said to me is pretty much the same words that you hear from typical young teens. And it's scary to hear from your child that they want to kill themselves just because of a boy. Just because of a boy saying that you're ugly. And my daughter is getting to that age where she starts to like boys, and she, I remember I picked her from school, and she told me that a boy said to her that she was ugly, and that she was sad, and she wanted to kill herself. And I said, don't. Just because one boy says to you that you're ugly, well, guess what? He has an ugly heart. He has an ugly heart to say that to you. So just because one boy say that to you, not every boy is going to think that you're ugly. There will be one boy out there think that you're really pretty. And I said that to her, and the next day I picked her up from school, and then she was all happy, and I was like, why are you so happy today? She's like, well, Mom, when we talked about, when we were talking, and I told you about this boy, and you said that even though he said this and said that, and then there will be other boys that think that I'm pretty. And I'm like, yes, why, what's going on? And she's just like, Mom, well, this is what happened. Another boy in my class today, and he kept staring at me. So I was annoyed that he was staring at me, and I went up to him and I said, why do you keep staring at me? And he said, because you're so pretty. And I just felt really happy, and I was like, see? Just because one boy said that you're ugly, it doesn't mean every single boy is going to think you're ugly. And it's funny because I could say this to my daughter, and my mom is saying to me, it's so funny because now, my mom would tell me, don't lose hope. Just because it didn't work out with this man, there will be another man that will see you worth it. There will be someone out there who sees your beauty. There will be someone out there that will trust you. Someone out there. There's always someone better out there for you, right? My mom's been saying that to me because I've been single for too long. And I've been single for too long. Even though I did dated my ex boyfriend for 5 years, I still consider myself single because he didn't marry me. So I've been single for too long. And I always tell my mom, yeah, Mom, I don't think I want to date anymore because guys are just jerks. Guys are just this and this, and they just want to use you. They don't love you. They don't give a crap about you. They just want their friends. They just want you there to, so that when they come home, they have a woman in the house to cook for them. They don't care about you. They don't want to spend time with you. They just want to spend time with their friends. So I can care less about a guy now. Like, I'm just so cold-hearted towards guys. But here I am telling my daughter, telling my daughter, but she is still young, is my point. As I'm getting older, I know that there will be someone out there for me. But just because one boy says I'm ugly or whatever, that doesn't mean I should end my life. My life is really precious. Your life is really precious. Your mom didn't give birth to you just so you can end your life because of what one person said. And and I just want to share this to a lot of young teens, young teenagers out there, that just because one boy say you're ugly, or if one girl said that you're ugly, they probably have an ugly heart to say that to you. And you should just don't think about committing suicide. Don't think about just ending everything because of what one person said. And that's something that I remind my daughter all the time. And the whole point of this is to share to you, young teens and other adults out there, that just because of one word, you don't need to commit suicide for it. Your life is precious. And you may not see that. People may not tell you that you're precious to them. People may not tell you that you are worth their time. Like, not a lot of people will tell you that you are special to them. That you are, not a lot of people will tell you. And that is something I do see in this world that us humans lacks. And suicidal rates have increased a lot. So, I encourage everyone out there to stay positive and say positive things to your friends and family or to your loved ones. Love each other, because you never know what's going to happen. And especially right now with COVID still going around and the Delta COVID going around, it makes it even more scary. It makes it even more scarier to know when you have a family member that comes back positive for COVID. It's like, now what? Now what? I can't spend time with you. I can't be around you. Unless if you guys make a promise where, okay, if you die, I die. Let's do this together, Then sure, be together. You die, I die. But, with COVID and the Delta, it's worse. And, just spend your time wisely with your friends and families. Even though you had to stay 6 feet away from each other, but just spend it with the ones that is really precious to you. Tell them every day how much they mean to you. Tell them how pretty they are, how handsome they are. Give them positive vibes. Be there for them. Reach out to them so they don't feel alone. So they don't feel like no one cares about them. I don't tell people about my story, my car accident story, because it gets really emotional. Um, when I tell people that I saw God, people think that I'm making up stories, or they think that I'm crazy. But no, I'm not crazy. And I have seen him twice. I will share you my other story too. So um, yeah, just a little story I want to share to young teens out there, that your life is precious, and just because of one person who destroy you, there are 1,000 people out there, and one person will see you worth it. One person will take their time out of their busy schedule to talk to you. So I just want to thank you to everyone who listened, and I'm looking forward to share more about my experience in my life experience, dream experience. So this is my death experience, okay, guys? So just sharing this for the month of September, since it's suicidal awareness, so just want to share it out there, letting everybody know that your life is it's priceless. Your life is worth living for. Okay, so stay positive, stay home. If you do ever go out, or if you do go out 6 feet away, 6 feet away, mask up, hand sanitizer, do whatever you can to stay safe and stay healthy. All right, thank you.